unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1. Final Encounter Cast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncounterCast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
What's up? Welcome to Final Encounter Cast. Twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio, starting at 1. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. And, oh, wow, we didn't even bother to set the cameras in the studio. Because, yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, whoops.
Oh, and I had my camera up since 11 o'clock.
Yeah, except you didn't bother to check to see if your audio settings were right.
I mean, it worked in OBS, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, OBS is not Zoom. Those are not that's not the same program. Just so you know.
I guess that's fair.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Appreciate having you along, and we'll get we'll get the cameras fixed here in just a second.
Scuba Steve says fat sounds like an ass. What else is new?
Yeah, well...
No, just ass. Oh, sorry. Sounds like ass. Okay, my bad.
Well, yeah. The reason is that he's having to use his webcam microphone because he has no idea how to set up a headset.
Headsets are hard, okay?
Apparently.
They're not food.
Right?
You don't set up food anyway. You just eat it, moron. Sure showed me.
Anyway, welcome to the show. Appreciate having you guys along. We'll have to do with a wide angle shot here for a second.
Nah, it'll work.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have this is the first show of 2018.
The new year.
Yes. So
we are nailing it out of the park.
I know, right? Like, this is a really good way to start off 2018. Although,
Nika, I agree.
Yeah, well, though we are winding down this show. We are in the last 10 episodes of Final Encounter Cast.
Yeah.
So it's about to become the Let's Be Real podcast. So we're excited about that. We've got some big, exciting things going on with Checkpoint. I do believe our new website is supposed to go live today. Ooh. I believe. Don't hold me to that.
If it doesn't, I want to believe. If it doesn't officially launch before the OWL, you are getting it on air.
But we're excited about the new website. Mm-hmm. It looks really good. A guy by the name of Casey Griggs has been working on that.
Thanks, Casey.
And then we've also got a brand new network site that combines all of our content. That's being worked on by Zemlis, who I haven't heard from in a couple of days, but.
He asked to play Overwatch with me the other day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's not very good, so I didn't respond.
Oh, well, you know, you should. You should let him know. You should let him know that.
Sorry.
If you want, if he wants to be able to play Overwatch with you, that he's got to finish our website.
But then I'll have to. All right, he can do quick play, so I'll pass that on. And I am sorry. The worst thing when streaming Overwatch is when the people who aren't any good ask to join you. And it's like, how do you say, not right now, we're doing comp? Because that's essentially saying, not right now, you suck. You say, okay, I'm only playing competitive with X number of people, where X is equal to the number of people you have. Okay.
Well,
I just ignore that.
Or, I mean, yeah, just lead with you suck. How about that? Just lead with...
Just be an ass.
Just be honest.
These are people that I'm normally not an ass to.
Well,
see, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You can start being an ass.
Well, yeah, that's your fault.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so got a lot to talk about. A lot happened in the 2 weeks that we were off.
It's a good way when you're not really sure if you have enough to make a show. Take a few weeks off. When you come back, you have more than enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But not just that, Robbie, you're having to take up a whole new position in the studio today.
Yeah, a few positions because, as we know, Fat is very large. So
the juxtaposition.
I can't fill all of his shoes.
I have to remark how much room there is over in that corner when someone of an appropriate size is sitting there. Like, I always feel bad for Chris, who seems crammed in that corner, but
plenty of room.
You've got like elbow room.
I can spin around. Look at this. I
know.
Spin and
I feel like you could do like jumping jacks.
If I were so inclined, I could do jumping jacks. Now, to be fair, if you put Chris in an open area, I don't think he could do jumping jacks. So.
If we laid down some cardboard boxes, do you think you could do some breakdancing?
I don't think I could do breakdancing without the cart. Like, no, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, it's pretty easy when you have the body size of a small boy
instead of that of a whale.
Yes, large sea mammals. To be fair, though, I am getting fatter.
Aww.
That happened to me over vacation.
Sucks.
I feel like I gained a shitload of weight.
Really?
Yeah, because my clothes aren't fitting properly. I went up a whole belt loop.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's not
whole
good.
Belt loop.
A whole belt hole.
Yeah.
Belt
No,
hole,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But here's the thing, though, when you're not taking fistfuls of speed every day, it has a
metabolism kind of slows down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So why aren't you taking fistfuls of speed every day?
Because I've decided I do not want to take
fistfuls of speed every day.
Not just that. I mean, it was burning me out. I think it was stressing me out more than anything. But not just that. Like I felt like it wasn't helping me. It wasn't actually addressing the real issues that I was having.
It became more of a problem than a solution.
Not even. It wasn't. I wouldn't even say that it was a problem because it's not like I was taking more than I needed. I'd say that's when it kind of starts to move over into a problem. It's just I felt like I didn't need it.
Oh, all right. Well, if it's an appropriate weight loss solution, maybe you can give what you have left to Fat.
Yeah, give that to me.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
There's too many underlying problems. At least I have some healthy habits that I maintain.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but yeah, so I haven't been taking Adderall hardly at all. And I'm also trying to get off Ambien, which I've been taking Ambien far longer than I've been taking Adderall. So I found that like when I do fall asleep, because it takes me much longer to fall asleep, that I feel I'm like sleeping for like 14-hour stretches. Seems excessive.
I feel that.
Okay, so you're gaining weight, you're sleeping a whole lot, you're just depressed.
I mean, that's possible.
Still playing Pokemon?
No, I mean, well, not as much.
Stopping have hobbies that you really enjoy doing, you're totally depressed.
I mean, you might not be wrong. There may be something to that. But I don't have anything really to be depressed about.
Have you been having sex lately?
No, I've been jerking off a lot, though. So, there's that.
I mean, look, you don't have to have things to be depressed about to be depressed.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's true. But
yeah,
I mean, but that's the I don't. But I haven't been feeling like I know the markers of my own depression.
Sure,
and I don't think I don't think it's depression. I just think it's been adjusting to life without as many chemicals.
That's very possible. That's very possible.
So, and it's tough too. I mean, like I do feel like I'm compensating a little bit coming off the Adderall with more caffeine. Like I've been drinking more coffee than ever. It's harder to get up in the morning, but that's the thing, though. I don't have to be up in the morning. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like there's
see some of the stuff that you're saying kind of lines up with the way that I operate too. Like it's hard for me to fall asleep, but when I do, it's really hard to get up in the morning. And if I don't have work, I'm usually in bed till 2 o'clock.
And the thing is like. None of it is impacting my work because, basically for a couple... The only thing that I wanted to do during the holidays that I wasn't able to carve out time to do was an extra live stream. That's pretty much the only thing. And outside of that, like, we got everything done for Checkpoint. We, told everyone that we were taking a couple of weeks off for the podcast. So there was really no compelling reason for me to be up. And I was just basically losing out on video game playing time.
Yeah.
And, like, it's also freezing ass cold in my condo right now, too. It's like down to
Well, when you live
63.
right off of the river, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like building your apartment next to a gigantic ice tray.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it.
You should try turning up the heat in your apartment.
Oh, it's all the way up. All the way up. Anyway.
Like to 70?
No, to like above 85.
Oh, well, you must be sweltering in there.
No, I'm not, because it's so drafty. Anyway, how was your guys' New Year, Robbie?
Was good. I actually spent it with Katie on the stream, so everyone got to, officially like meet her for the first time. Even got her to play some Overwatch, which led to me almost having to break up with her. Because first she wanted to play with a controller, and then she asked, yeah, and then she asked if there were any snipers that she could play.
Boo. Boo.
Yeah. So I'm
Hanzo?
Widowmaker. She wanted Widowmaker.
Show her Hanzo.
So it's like
that way she can be a Hanzo main.
Like if she would have just like said all this stuff off stream or just in the privacy, like that's fine. That's just a dark secret that I hide. But she said it in front of everyone, so like I had to take action.
Had to take action.
But other than that, yeah, it went well. Basically just spent like 11 days with her, sleeping, watching Netflix, and playing games, and eating junk food. So it's kind of what I want out of life.
Yeah, I spent my New Year
Nobody asked
working.
You. Nobody asked you.
I don't think anyone. Yeah, no.
Nobody asked you.
We knew what we kind of knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, since the 19th of December up until today, excluding New Year's Day and Christmas Day, I worked every single day. And the only reason I had New Year's Day off, which is technically a mandatory work day, is from the benevolence of my manager.
But that's because you bribe him with donuts.
I can't believe
actually, Swiss cake rolls.
I can't believe he knows what benevolence means. That's what I'm surprised by.
Video game once.
It was in a video game once.
That sounds right. That sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think I'm gonna start using that now.
What'd you guys get for Christmas?
No, it was in a video game once.
It was in a video game. Yeah. What'd you guys get for Christmas? Anything cool?
Money and snacks from my family. Basically, I told them, I'm like, look, you never get me anything good anyway, so just either get me gift
money
cards
and snacks.
or snacks. Yep.
Right.
But then girlfriend got me Overwatch jersey, which I'm wearing right now. And she also got me, I guess there were 3 different ones, and she got me the most expensive one, but it was an Overwatch art book set that came with a bunch of prints that were like handpicked by the developers of the art team or whatever.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was really cool. It's like 400 pages.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
There's actually some really cool things in there that I've never seen online before, because I've looked up art and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about doing like a thing on Twitter. Maybe each day I'll like post a different picture or a different page from the art book.
Nice.
Oh, plagiarism. That's cool.
Not if I credit them.
Eater of foods. What about your dumbass?
They get me some food and clothes and a whole lot of stupid shit for my baby.
Yeah. That's right.
To the point where I'm just selling off parts of my childhood to make way for parts of my baby's childhood.
You want to maybe tell people what's up for sale? So maybe if they want to get in on some of that awesome juxtaposition swag.
Well, actually, I already sold my entire Super Nintendo collection and all of my PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games and all of my DVDs. So
wow.
I think I have 64 games left and the consoles, and I'm about to sell those.
See, I would have thought that you would have kept those to pass that shit down.
No, because like I have a Raspberry Pi, and I might as well just I'm going to get legit about it, I'll just get a Super Nintendo Classic, which are super common.
How much you want for the Raspberry Pi?
Huh?
How much you want for the Raspberry Pi?
$100.
Just
Come on,
go
how desperate
buy
are you?
one. Just go buy one. Jesus, you can buy a new one.
It's so sad that he has to sell all of that stuff off. Like, man, fatherhood sucks.
If you were able to figure out a Raspberry Pi,
partially, but it's also mostly just for room. Which, by the way, I have a whole bunch of boxes that you left from when you moved out, Robbie, so you need to get that shit out of here.
Well, and I was planning on picking some up today when I stopped by to hitch a ride with you, but you stayed at home. So,
yeah,
I said, when I come through there on Sundays, yes, I'll start taking some boxes.
Ready to admit your baby's stupid?
No, my baby's smart. She
your
sits up
baby's
by herself now.
stupid.
Like, not from all the way up, but you just have to, like, keep her planted, and then she, like, doesn't wobble back and forth anymore.
Is that a milestone?
I feel like it is. Now I don't have to, like, constantly, like, hold her head so it doesn't, like, fall backwards or forwards.
Lloyd in the chat said you should have kept all your stuff and just started a GoFundMe.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
help Juxta pay for his baby.
Or the
GoFundMe isn't going to give me basement room back, okay? That's a valuable commodity.
That's why you got rid of it, because you didn't have room to keep it?
Yeah, I'm also in the process of selling like a bunch of board games too. Rob, you want some of those board games you bought?
The Magic one that I bought you, I will just take back since you probably never even opened it.
I opened it and I opened the package. I didn't actually open the box.
I mean, you probably.
I'll sell that to you.
I mean, you probably should have asked about the video games, considering that
I did ask about the video games in the host chat, and nobody said a damn word. I even made a Google documents detailing all the ones I had, and nobody said a peep. So fine.
I think he did that just for his Super Nintendo.
I'm gonna sell my Pokemon games, and then I'm gonna ask you, Nate. How about that?
I don't need them. I was just gonna say, we run a company that is video game related. You probably could have been. The company probably could have afforded to buy some of those.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Probably. I'm just saying, you probably should have thought about that shit.
No, too busy thinking about his dumb baby in his dumb basement room. Here's what I don't understand. Okay? So before you had the baby, you had two grown men living with you who had all their own stuff. They've both moved out, which means you don't just have one room for the baby, you also have now twice the basement room. How does a single baby take up a room and then an entire basement the size of your first floor?
My family loves my baby, and they bought her lots and lots of clothes and lots and lots of toys that she can't even use for another 3 or 4 months.
That sucks.
There's so much toys. There is literally so much shit. Like I don't ever remember getting this much shit from my family back when I was 4 or 5 years old.
It's because people don't love you.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's not hard to figure out.
Anyway.
How was your Christmas and New Year, Nate?
Oh, it was fine.
He slept.
Yeah.
Played Pokemon.
I got some of my art framed.
I saw a lot of that's up around your apartment now.
Yeah. Including a Akira print, which I quite like. Also a Run the Jewels print back in my bedroom.
Cool.
Let's see, a couple of others, but also got a new jacket.
To replace the one that you lost at the rent set.
Yes, yeah.
What?
But it's a nice. It's like a nice bomber jacket. It's actually like an official. I think it's Air Force.
Nice
jacket.
Nice.
Yeah, super nice.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. It was
like a pretty low key holiday for a lot of us.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what happens when you get old.
Just attempting to get rest and relaxation.
Kind of, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We've got 2 weeks worth of news to catch up on. Plus, we're going to be talking about the World Health Organization's official classification of video game disorders. So we want to hear from you. And you can call the show, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. And by the way, I do want to mention that our Discord is going to be changing a little bit, because it is now officially going to become the Let's Be Real Discord. So we're going to change the logo and the name. So, people that are a part of it, don't be too surprised, but that's going to happen so that we can kind of roll everything in together, and we'll have a way for you to be able to use Discord to call in. So finally, Countercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. Give us a call. Kooky is standing by to take your calls. And what's interesting, have you run the phones before, Robbie?
Nope.
All right, so this is... It's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
This is definitely going to be interesting. So we've got Kooky standing by, ready to take your calls, and I want to put Robbie to work today. So make sure you give us your calls. We want to know, are video games addictive? Have you ever been addicted to a video game? Do you agree with the World Health Organization's classification of video game disorder? But before we get into that, let's check out what's going on in the news.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
So a new video game called Harambe Kong is stirring controversy. In the game, you play as the gorilla himself and must avoid running into any children at the zoo, or else you're shot and killed by the zoo staff. The creator of the game has said he made it because he hates zoos.
Why is this creating controversy?
Yeah, what?
I think that this is, first of all, I think it's hilarious. Second of all, is it in poor taste? Yeah, maybe, probably. But third, I mean, the guy's got a good point. I understand. I'm not a huge fan of zoos. I think it's kind of fucked up to take animals, especially endangered ones, and fucking cage them and damn near domesticate them. It's
kind of a social commentary, if you will.
At the same time, though, I'm not so against zoos that I don't understand some of the good things that they do as well. Right. They have been effective in conserving certain species, but some of the practices of zoos are pretty fucked up. I just don't understand why people are reacting to this in the way that they are.
Keyboard warriors?
I mean, yeah, but whatever.
Yeah,
I thought keyboard warriors are on Harambe's side.
That's what I would think. Like this, I mean, maybe that's the thing, is that,
people think it trivializes it or makes it into a joke or something like that.
Like weirdly, Harambe was like martyred. You know what I mean? Like Harambe got martyred status, and I feel like it's just those people who are like reacting like, "Oh my god, how could you do that to the memory of Harambe?" It's a fucking gorilla.
Kind of want to play it a little bit.
I mean, it's
probably a bad game.
Probably, yeah.
It probably is a terrible game, but I also, I mean, like, how people don't look at this in the exact same way as the Gorilla Channel shit is beyond me.
No.
Like, that whole thing is just hilarious. Did you guys
no
the Gorilla Channel?
No.
Okay, so someone created a fake excerpt from that book about Trump that's causing all of the news stories and the problems with the Steve Bannon quotes. There's a fake quote that somebody made up where it was like, Trump keeps demanding to watch the Gorilla Channel, and so staffers made up a fake Gorilla Channel that is just edited together footage of gorillas. But then he complained that they weren't fighting enough, so they only edited the footage of gorillas fighting one another.
Hold on,
and he watches that for like 13 hours. Somebody.
Wait, where did the stuff that was made up stop? Because I feel like when you said so staffers decided they had to make a Gorilla Channel, like in my head,
all of that is made up.
Okay, so let's say in my head, him saying make a Gorilla Channel so that this doesn't make me look like a fool, like that makes, like, it wouldn't surprise me if he did that.
No.
Okay.
All of it is made up. Every bit of it is made up.
Wow.
And MSNBC reported on the made up, like, the Gorilla Channel thing.
Awesome.
So it was someone made it on Twitter, and it just spun the fuck out of control.
That is amazing.
How hilarious is that?
I did not think that our Harambe story would get this much talk time.
No.
Okay, moving on. Anyone who was a gamer in the 90s knows what Nintendo Power is, and now it's back. Well, kind of. The decade-spanning magazine is back after a 5-year hiatus, but this time in the form of a podcast. The show is hosted by Chris Slate, the former editor-in-chief of Nintendo Power, and as of now, doesn't have a regular release window or schedule. Why would you announce that you're out if you're not out? Like if you don't have a regular release schedule or at least a time frame. I mean, I realize that that's what podcasts do nowadays, but you can also maintain a certain modicum of professionalism.
Yeah, at least have
in a podcast.
At least have a pilot.
We do.
There is one. There is like at least one episode because it pops up on the website.
Oh, really?
Well, guess what Nate dug out for us to take a look at, guys.
Is it his Nintendo Power?
It is a Nintendo Power magazine.
It is. Here.
Which issue?
I was going to say, circa, when's it from?
This is the January 99?
January 99. So this came out the New Year's of 99.
Yep. So
the first page that I opened to, like pre-show, it was I think it was a Turok walkthrough, and it's like, save the child. And when I saw the picture, I'm like, I ain't going anywhere near that thing. That is horrendous looking.
So this is when the Nintendo 64 Castlevania came out.
Ooh.
So it's got the 10-page monster review, Game Boy Color, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, and huge reviews of Battle Tanks, FIFA 99, Nightmare Creatures, and NBA Jam 99.
A 10-page...
They had World of Tanks back then?
Battle Tanks.
Battle Tanks.
Oh.
Different tank game. But hold on. 10-page review from games in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't think I could write a 10-page review now about games that come out.
Probably not.
Okay, well, you have to
No, it's not even a 10-page review. It's a 10-page monster review.
Monster review.
And you can, like, fill that space up with pictures, and there's, like, column stuff.
Right,
there's tons of editing, okay?
Yeah, it's probably really only like a page.
Yeah.
By the way, Battle Tanks spelled with an X because 1999 was a fucking.
It's really Battle Tanks.
Yeah.
See, if Battle Tanks would have waited just one more year, they could have avoided that embarrassment.
So let's see. In the this is volume 116. We've got in the strategy section. Castlevania, obviously, South Park, Battle Tanks, Turok 2, FIFA 99, Nightmare Creatures.
Wait, hold on.
That sounds scary.
They needed a guide for FIFA 99?
Apparently.
Kick the ball in the goal.
Fox Sports College Hoops 99.
Stop.
Charlie Blast's Territory. I don't know what the fuck that is. I've got to find out what Charlie Blast's Territory is.
Oh,
do they still have the section of the magazine where it's like the cheat codes? It's like in like a manila folder type area where it like tells you all the button combinations to like get infinite lives.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know. Well, maybe. No, I don't think so.
It's only like 4 pages, so it's like you gotta kind of have to find it.
Yeah,
it's hidden.
Hang on. So we've also got NBA Jam 99, NHL Breakaway, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, which is I think why I bought this. Carrot Crazy, Montezuma's Revenge, and Gex Enter the Gecko. We've also got in this issue a preview of ODT, Shadowgate 64, and a special predictions for 1999.
Wow.
Who wants to check out what the predictions for 1999 are?
I so do.
All right. And then, of course, in every issue, Player's Pulse, classified information, Counselor's Corner, Player Poll Contest Arena, Now Watching, Pack Watch, Next Issue, and Game List. And, of course, the final episode of Pokemon Power. All right, I gotta check out what the predictions for 1999.
See if we can recall if they got anything right.
Page number 62. Oh wow, look at this, a full page ad for Buck Bumble. The fuck game was that?
What?
It's a N64 called Vastly Original by Gamers Republic.
Oh man.
The accredited Gamers Republic.
How much of the new Nintendo Power podcast is going to be advertising? Because
if it isn't, is it really Nintendo Power?
There's a lot more.
Hey, back in the day, Nintendo Power like made like a big like letter to the fans, like saying, "Hey, we're considering advertisements, and we want to hear your feedback. So send us your letters saying how you feel about getting like advertisements in our magazine." That was a big deal when we first started getting advertisements in Nintendo Power.
And what was the people's opinion?
Well, the ones they published were all for it. So
of course.
So, all right. Remember, this is Nintendo Power, so everything has to be goddamn cheesy as fuck. So here's the predictions for 1999 given to us by Mario and Wario. Wario, yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh.
So the question is, what will more N64 games be using in 1999? Mario says the memory expansion pack, like a responsible young Italian plumber. And Wario says solar-powered, pocket-sized generators run by very, very tiny elves and gremlins. It's all in preparation for that Y2K bug. I'm stockpiling canned goods and ramen noodles as we speak.
I mean, it was kind of right. We have cell phones now.
Oh.
We're not solar powered yet.
Where will we see Mario in 1999? I'll be starring in a few games, including Super Mario RPG 2.
Oh.
0 for 2.
Wario says, at the end of my 10-foot pole. That's a weird response. Enough about...
Is that a dick joke?
Enough about Mario and more about me. I'll be appearing in Mario Party, and the All-Star Olympics of video games developed by Hudson Soft.
Mario was right. Kind of.
Okay. There's more, but...
Let's not.
Can we do more?
No, we have a real show to do.
I mean, I'm just saying...
This is the main topic, right?
I'm just saying that this makes me have super high expectations for this Nintendo Power podcast.
Okay. So, the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment in Oakland, California has requested a DMCA exemption for defunct MMOs. The idea is they'd like to host servers to preserve games that have been discontinued by their publisher. The request has been made now because the Copyright Office will be reviewing their anti-circumvention provisions of the DMCA in the near future. And I actually think this is a really cool idea.
Yes, they are going to refunk some old MMOs. No.
Refunk? Bring the refunk.
No, I think that this is a brilliant idea because, you know, museums are starting to become a lot more aware of how digital culture should be kind of cataloged and preserved. And I think that, you know, if there's a museum that's up for the challenge of maintaining a server, however small or large, to be able to support old games, that, yeah, they should absolutely be able to do that.
Okay, so then the one question, I'm going to play a little bit of the devil's advocate here, is one of the things that in previous shows, episodes, really across all of our different shows that we've talked about, is how, you know, there's this inherent value with the way that video games are made and sort of the way that they exist and their lifespan, where take a game like City of Heroes, like no one gets to actually experience that anymore. Or even with pre-Cataclysm, up until the vanilla servers were announced, those were things that we as gamers, if you were able to experience them, nobody else gets to now. And there was a certain kind of value in that. And if this is something that ends up happening, that value kind of goes away, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because you know, I think that you'll probably have to have a down period before a game can be classified as like the abandonware version of an MMO.
Probably, yeah.
And so you will kind of have that period, and then there's the question of like, is it worth catalog, like, is it worth archiving? And, you know, some games probably are not going to be eligible for it. I think the more interesting question, at least for me, is what happens to the payment models for those games. Do museums then get to, you know, be able to make up some of the maintenance costs by charging people for access to it?
Hold on.
Do you have to abandon all monetization for it altogether?
I would think that, first of all, you wouldn't want to put all of that. Maybe at first you can put that cost on whatever type of funding the museum gets, right? But as you go further and further into the future and more MMOs are added, I don't know that you can rely entirely on funding, just from donors or whatever. What I would see happening is, instead of charging a fee on like a game-by-game basis, maybe there's just an overall fee that you pay to the museum to get access to them.
I mean, maybe
like you have to get like I don't know, something about like membership to the museum or something.
Well, the thing that I'm driving at is that they, with a monthly subscription, that's kind of a passive way. But when you get into games that suddenly had microtransactions or free to play or whatever, you know what I mean, that found other ways to monetize. That was actually much, in some cases, like Archage, that was much more attached to the actual game and game progression itself. So how do you overcome that? Do you are games that were monthly, like how I don't know how exactly you would administrate around that.
Some games would actually have to go through some type of change, either to the way that they work or even the coding, in order to make them viable in this way.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think that the DMCA exemption should be applied.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is, I regardless of how they end up doing it, it's still a really cool concept.
Right.
Niantic CEO John Hanke has confirmed that at long last, Pokemon Go will be launching in China. This comes about a year after reports surfaced that the game was unlikely to ever launch in China due to concerns of information security and safety. Niantic will be working with Chinese company NetEase to prep the game for launch in the country. Now, some people might be thinking, okay, who cares? I've already been playing it. How is this going to affect me? China's huge.
The money
it's going to affect me by giving Niantic lots and lots of money.
There you go.
That's how it affects me.
So, I'm kind of looking forward. I hope that we get another, it's probably not going to be soon. It probably won't be till maybe either before or even after Gen 4. But I'm hoping they take another look at the game, specifically the way that raids and gyms work, and realize, all right, maybe we got this wrong. Maybe we need to undergo another rehaul and see what we can do.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
No, I'm not, but, you can still.
Gym rehaul? Now it's $2 per raid pass.
Yeah, okay. Back in 2014, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission fined Valve $2.3 million for their lack of a refund policy. Valve, of course, appealed the ruling, but as of this year, the case has been settled and Valve has been denied the appeal. Valve did, of course, add their refund policy back in 2015.
Yeah, that sucks for them.
Yeah, but, we got the refund policy. So
that's true. I mean,
which seems like a no-brainer that probably should have been there to begin with.
Yeah.
Seems like kind of threw that $2.3 million down the drain pretty quick. A 44-year-old Russian man died last month after falling through a glass table while playing a VR game. A few other details about the incident are known, but if confirmed, it will mark the first reported fatality relating to modern virtual reality.
I mean,
Confirmed, you're more likely to die from a shark attack than you are from playing VR games.
I was going to say, there is that warning at the beginning of every VR game to make sure that your surroundings are clear of anything that could be hazardous. And I would think a glass table that you could trip over would have been one of them.
Yeah.
I always sit down.
Okay, well, you can't see a glass table. It's glass. It's see-through.
We can still mute him, right?
I mean, yes.
Okay, just so I know.
Yeah.
So it's in the back of my mind there.
I feel like the only people who own glass top tables are assholes anyway.
All right. Well,
so Russians?
And he was Russian, so I feel like that just increased his chances of being an asshole.
I mean, it's hard for me to feel that bad for him. Like, it just seems like you did all of these dumb things and now you're dead. And that sucks for you. But you shouldn't have been doing the dumb things. You shouldn't have been doing the dumb things.
Don't do the dumb things.
He was 44 years old. He was approaching like that time when you don't want to be alive anymore. So, you know what? Props to him.
Chris, aren't you like 10 years away from that?
12 from 44.
Oh, okay.
So I got like 18 years left of me before I've got to,
No, 44, man. 44. I'm coming over. I'm putting you out of your misery.
With a glass table?
With a glass table. Yes.
Right.
That's the plan.
Glass table in a VR game.
That's right.
I knew it's my time.
So, PlayerUnknown Battleground passed a major milestone over the holiday break as they cleared 3 million concurrent players on Steam.
Jesus.
They've now moved over 30 million copies of the game, and PlayerUnknown himself has said his goal is for the game to cross into League of Legends territory by moving over 100 million, which would definitely be a feat because League of Legends is free.
That's kind of a lofty goal, isn't it?
I mean, it is, but
the 30 million was really before it actually came out.
It's hard to argue with.
It is.
It's really hard to...
Like, it's only just now coming out on the Xbox One, and they eventually want it to come out on, PS4 as well. I don't know. Do you think the Switch eventually? Yeah.
Probably could.
Probably could, but...
That'd be a big one.
If my laptop can run it without problem, I think that
that's fair. That's probably
they could probably tune it for a Switch. If they can get Skyrim to run, I feel like Skyrim is a little bit more graphics heavy than PUBG.
And they've also been talking about the idea of wanting to cross over into other media. Now, how well that's going to work out, TVs, movies, etc., is really anyone's guess. But it would only add to the popularity.
Yeah. Juxta, remind me, on the base of the Switch, is there a place to plug in a LAN cable or no?
A LAN cable? I don't think so.
It's just Wi-Fi through and through?
Yeah, it looks like it's just you probably have to have like some kind of adapter on the dock to get it through for a LAN.
I was gonna say because yeah, I mean I could see maybe even over but that's the thing again. My laptop usually functions over Wi-Fi
just fine. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what PUBG has the potential to do.
Okay, but the question is is there really 3 times as many players as playing right now that are gonna want to buy PUBG?
Chris,
that'll want to buy copies of it.
See, this is the thing. We've all shamelessly bought certain games over and over and over again. Right?
Yeah, because those are good games.
When Skyrim comes out for the Apple iWatch, people are going to buy it. It's just what they do.
If I could buy PUBG on my PS4, I probably would right now.
Controller.
Don't you have... Why?
Because there's every once in a while I like to sit on my fucking couch and play.
Just the way that it is, yeah. Not even a year after release, and Lawbreakers, I'm sorry, Nate, is officially being deemed a flop. The game is being labeled as the primary reason for a $32 million expense loss for developer Nexon. Interestingly, the primary reason given for the flop is competition from PUBG, which seems a little unlikely. Although admittedly, as PUBG crests 3 million concurrent players, Lawbreakers had 90 last month.
Wow, 90 million?
No. 90. Just 90.
People,
90.
There was a time, I remember this being a headline on Kotaku, that at one point, Lawbreakers had a whopping 10 concurrent players.
It's not even enough to fill up a full match.
No. I'm sorry. But you guys, do you really think that it's PUBG's fault?
No. I don't think it's PUBG's fault.
Because there was, I think, 5 months between their releases.
I mean, when I had tried Lawbreakers out at E3, I said at the time, man, this just kind of feels like Overwatch. And it felt like Overwatch with
extreme after it.
No, with like added gravity elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mean that's okay, I guess. But I mean, I'm not that into Overwatch. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to be.
You really are, yeah. I mean, I think the saddest thing for me, because Lawbreakers, it looked really cool. I thought it did have a decent premise, and maybe it did come out a little bit too soon, whether it was because of Overwatch or PUBG. But man, what really, when I think about it, makes me sad is that Battleborn lasted longer than Lawbreakers did.
Yikes.
Ouch.
Yikes.
Ouch.
Well, I mean, like, at least Battleborn is like an FPS MOBA. Like, Lawbreakers is just a shitty Overwatch clone. It's like Paladins.
Paladins, I think, is still going, though.
Yeah.
Isn't Paladins free, though?
They actually just announced... Wait, was it Paladins that just announced the 100-person Battle Royale mode?
I thought that was...
That's Fortnite.
Yeah, that's Fortnite.
No, Fortnite did it, but I think that...
oh, no, That's right. Paladins did announce that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. All right. So now we need to have Overwatch. You know where you need to go.
No.
100-man Battle Royale map.
I don't know. Nate might play it more then.
Nate?
Yeah?
What are you talking about? I wouldn't.
Get your PUBG fix from there, too.
What map would they put you on?
They would have to make a whole new one.
Obviously.
They would string all maps they have together.
Oh, yeah, because that would be good.
Wait, that wouldn't even make sense. They're like countries apart.
Portals, I don't know. Nintendo Italy may have jumped the gun on their website as they claimed the Switch's paid online service had been pushed back until fall of 2018. The other Nintendo sites all had a generic 2018 designation for the service, and Nintendo Italy quickly changed their listing to fall in line with the others. We should learn more shortly, however, as rumors are swirling about a Nintendo Direct later this month.
Apparently, fans are demanding a Nintendo Direct.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're like frothing at the mouth for a Nintendo. Like...
I just imagine at Nintendo, they're like, we don't have nothing to tell them. What do we say?
Just throw Reggie out there. Just make him say stuff.
Make Reggie play ARMS. Get Conan O'Brien on there with him.
No, I mean, the thing is, though, is that... I do understand the reason why, is because we keep hearing developer after developer saying, hey, we're going to be supporting the Switch. Capcom is saying, hey, we're meaningfully supporting the Switch. More and more games and game developers say, we're working with the console, and they're impressed by it and want to keep working with it. And so people are like, okay, well, where's Nintendo? When are they going to talk about it? Because they need, like... Now that Mario is out, they don't know the next big move. Nintendo fans are in the dark on what the next big move is. It could be Pokemon. It could be Smash. It could be, I mean, it seems likely that it's either Pokemon or Smash.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think it is, Chris?
I mean, I've probably Pokemon before Smash, like a new Smash. Like, I'm sure they're going to port over the Wii U version of Smash.
Then that'll be the next big deal.
I mean,
no. Come on.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's a big deal, but it's not like
Smash
a new
4,
game.
But it's Smash 4 Deluxe. They'll do the same thing that they did with the fucking Mario Kart and everything.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mario Kart was the best-selling Mario Kart of all time, and it was just a port.
They'd be insane not to.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to one-up the Wii U.
Yeah.
Speaking of confusion over Nintendo's online services, there's apparently still a ton of it. Surprise, surprise. Nintendo's support staff felt the need to tweet out a graphic explaining the difference between the Nintendo account and the Nintendo Network ID. Maybe just have one system for your platform and people will stop being so confused, Nintendo. You ever thought about that?
Well, I feel like the Network ID that they had for... You know, the Wii, the Wii U, and for the 3DS. I mean, it's ancient, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, there's. I don't think that there was any way to unify the system. You know, like, how would you have done it? It would be like it would you know what I mean, like Square Enix had to figure out the same thing with the Play Online ID as well, and there's really no good way to do it.
Okay, but now that you're on the Switch and you know your console and your handheld is essentially the same thing, like this is the point where going in you probably should have had an idea on how to do what Microsoft and Sony have been doing since the PS3?
Well, if I had to guess, Xbox? The Nintendo account is going to be that. But it's going to be...
I mean, I hope so, because I have, I had one for the Wii, I had one for the Wii U, and I had a different one for the 3DS, and now I think I have another different one for the Switch, and
You do?
I have too many screen names as it is, apparently.
But the thing is that, I don't think we're ever going to see another update to the 3DS line. We're definitely never going to see another update to the Wii stuff. So, yeah, I think this is going to be it. But the thing is that they've got a unified console. So
okay,
they almost don't need it.
2018, and we think that maybe Nintendo is finally getting their shit together when it comes to online services. We think, maybe, can we hope?
Until
I doubt it.
System comes out.
Fucking doubt it.
Okay, well, Nintendo is still planning on shuttering the Miiverse, a fan project to preserve the works on it, led by Drastic Actions, has recently completed their work. The result? 17 terabytes of data, including
Jesus.
over 8 million profiles, 72 million drawings, 75 million screenshots, and 130 million posts have all been preserved on Archiverse.guide.
Wow.
In before Nintendo makes a cease and desist and takes it out.
Just give it to a museum. Just give it to a museum.
There you go. That's how you preserve it.
Classify it as an MMO.
I mean, okay.
According to Nintendo, the Switch has now moved over 4.8 million units in the U.S. since its launch back in March. That puts it well out ahead of the Wii, which sold 4 million units in the same time frame and makes it the fastest-selling game console in the U.S. It's not worldwide, but in the U.S. Still a pretty big feat, though, I gotta say. And lastly, the Entertainment Software Association has issued a sharp rebuke of the World Health Organization after they announced the gaming disorder will be added to the International Compendium of Diseases. They say its inclusion, quote, recklessly trivializes real mental health issues.
And that brings us to the central discussion of today's show. It's talking about the World Health Organization classifying gaming disorder in their latest classification of mental disorders. So let's talk about this, because I think that this is really important, and it definitely has gotten a lot of discussion. I've seen several people, several places, outlets talking about this, and glad that the ESA is getting out and talking about this, because I do kind of agree with that assessment that gaming disorder, the way that it's defined, is kind of trivializing mental health disorders.
Yes, I think that's where the crux of this lies, in the way that it's defined. Because now that it's it's a mental health disorder, whether or not you as a professional have much experience with video games, you, according to this, can now diagnose it, right? And I think that there is still a far cry between someone who plays video games for a lot of their day, especially if it's their career, such as us. I play video games for 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours. Look at streamers, right? Literally their career, day in and day out, right? And some people could look at that and be like, oh, you know what? Too much gaming, you're addicted to it.
Right. And I think that that's part of it, is that what this says is that you can't make a judgment about the way to spend your own free time. And that part of it, I think I have a big problem with. By the way, if you want to give us a call, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think video games are addictive? Do you think gaming addiction is real? Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. We'd love to hear from you on this.
Okay, so my question before we dive too deep into this is, is sex addiction and drug addiction considered two different things? Like in terms of like video game addiction, like are those like three separate things?
I mean, that's a great question, because I would have thought that addiction would have been across the board, would have been to anything, right?
Just addiction in general.
Like, in my opinion, like if video game addiction is a thing, then sex addiction can be a thing, and drug addiction can be a thing.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you.
Of course, eating for you.
The first one that came to my mind when this popped up was the idea that no one's ever worried about anyone being addicted to the gym or addicted to working out, right? Because working out, going to the gym, that's healthy for you. But I know people that if for whatever reason they're about to miss a single day at the gym, they will have a full-blown panic attack. Like they stop functioning because they can't go to the gym for a single day. Now, does that not seem like maybe there's something maybe not all right in their head when it comes to that?
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying. So let's lay out exactly what the World Health Organization has defined as gaming disorder, because again, this is not gaming addiction disorder. This is just gaming disorder, okay? So the 11th International Classification of Diseases will include gaming disorder. The draft document describes it as a pattern of persistent or recurrent gaming behavior so severe that it takes precedence over other life interests. That sounds like addiction to me.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. That I get.
The symptoms include impaired control over gaming, increased priority given to gaming, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite negative consequences. So
here's the thing. Because I know what gaming is, because I can tell the difference between someone who's maybe gaming more to the point where it's starting to hurt them, whether it's socially, at work, or their health. I know what those differences are. I can see two people gaming for 10 hours, one of them being perfectly fine, and one of them missing work, missing school, forgetting to eat, refusing to sleep, right? But my fear with this is that you really need to be educated on gaming, I think, as a culture specifically, not just, a medical practitioner, to be able to look at it and be able to go, okay, yeah, he's addicted. He's not addicted. A parent, because let's face it, today, not just parents, but just people in general, when it comes to self-diagnosing and self-medicating, happens way, way more often than it should. And so what happens when someone's, gaming for 10 hours a day, but it's perfectly fine? Maybe they want to be an esports athlete, right?
Right.
That's where they're going, because that is more and more and more looking like a great career path nowadays. But a parent could look at that and be like, shit, my kid's addicted. I got to go get him help now. And they're going to find a doctor that agrees with them.
Right. And part of the problem is that it's really only a diagnosis. There's no treatment that is available for it. There is no suggested treatment path to be able to do that. And I think that is an apt observation that, and as Chris had mentioned earlier, that you can be addicted to any number of things, whether it's gaming or sex or food or, the gym or, things that would otherwise be considered healthy. An unhealthy obsession with anything is unhealthy by definition. What is confusing about this is that it seems to kind of cordon off gaming specifically from anything that can be classified as addiction, right? And that's the part that really concerns me, because that is a judgment on the way that somebody is spending their time. Right? That's not, that's not somebody coming in and, where do you draw the line between someone who is preparing to be an esports athlete and someone who is addicted to gaming? Because on the outside, and Robbie, as you had mentioned, to someone who doesn't have the context for gaming as a culture, for esports as the potential moneymaker that it is, could see that and go, oh, my son or my daughter is addicted to video games.
The first story that comes to mind, and I forget his name off the top of my head, but we talked about this last year. There was a kid whose parents, who I think he didn't want to go to college or something like that, and his parents had told him, well, guess what? You know what? Until you finish high school, or for whatever reason, they took away internet connection at all. And he was Overwatch fanatic, right? He wanted to go into the pro scene.
Right.
Took the internet away from him, so he started watching videos. He printed off pictures of maps. He started doing like all this stuff. And so to his parents, what they would see is, oh, my kid doesn't want to go to school, and even when we take the game away from him, he still finds ways to fill his life with the game.
Right.
Like even me, who, again, I know what gaming culture is, even just looking at that like on paper, I could see how that might look like gaming addiction, but then he ended up getting signed to a pro Overwatch team as the shot caller.
But and here's the thing, though, is that I would think that even people who know us that don't understand gaming culture would look at the way and our relationship to video games, and now with this classification, question our relationship to video games. It's the mere fact that we have taken that passion for video games and for gaming and made it into a viable business that somehow makes it okay. Not everyone is going to be doing that, and not everyone, not everyone has access to the same amount of tools, but maybe driving at an idea. And it's very easy to trivialize someone's passion, something that someone is passionate in. And I mean, like, listen, if you can be addicted to video games, fine. I'll accept that as soon as somebody can also be addicted to baseball and football or basketball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that is something that is treated very often.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And I think the whole reason that this blew up and why this became such a big headline is because it is specifically gaming disorder. Had they just added gaming as a possible footnote under addiction, I don't think that anyone would have really batted an eye at that, because we've all seen it happen before. I mean, think back to all the different videos or documentaries we've watched from the early days of MMOs. Remember when you showed me some guy playing World of Warcraft where he actually went down south somewhere to some lady who was going to help him get better or whatever, right? Because she lost her son to it or something. Yeah. And when he finally was like, no, you know what, screw this. He moves back into a house with his friend in the basement. And in this video, it shows him he has a laptop on a milk crate and he's sitting like on a box. That guy was probably addicted to gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And I'm not saying that you can't be addicted to games. I've seen video games have negative impacts on people, but those are few and far between. And my concern is just like you had mentioned about that lady that was running this fucking
rehab.
Yeah, and there's going to be a cottage industry that comes out of this single classification, because that's lending credibility and validity to the idea that video games are somehow inherently addictive.
Let me ask you this, all right? All these whales or these manatees out here that are spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on these mobile games, these gotcha games.
Yeah.
Is that gaming disorder or is that a gambling addiction?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. Let's go to our phone lines. We've got Mike hanging on the line. Mike, thanks for calling Final Encountercast. What's going on?
Thanks for calling me, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, no problem.
I actually kind of don't completely disagree with it. It's the classification is a little screwy, but you know what do you expect from politicians? But it is the World Health Organization as well, and it really doesn't just we have a tendency here in America to focus on us, but this is also because of people in South Korea, people in China beating the shit out of each other in these gaming cafes and dying on the spot because they played 25 hours straight and with nothing but Red Bull and testosterone shot into their dick or whatever it is they're doing to keep on playing. So
and I mean again, but those are those are the exception to the rule. I think that again those cases are few and far between, and we hear about them when they do happen. And are people dying in mass droves in internet cafes or at their computers? And I guess my question is gaming to excess the problem? Is that the root of it, or is that a coping mechanism for deeper problems?
There you go.
Whether it be depression or whether it be anxiety, that's what a lot of times leads to addiction. Is that there's this underlying problem. People find drugs and it makes them feel good, and they're used to feeling shitty, so they get addicted to drugs, or good food makes them feel really good. You know what I mean? Like anything can make you feel good. Succeeding at a video game can make you feel good. Just playing a video game can make you feel good. It's when you cannot help yourself. It's when you're going, I don't want to play this video game, but you're loading up PUBG. And that's the part that I have a harder time accepting, or even saying with certainty that it exists.
For me, it's all about the optics. And I feel like that's one of the things that the ESA is worried about, too. Because, again, they're not classifying this as gaming addiction. They're just calling it gaming disorder. And you're right. Those cases that you pointed out obviously are very severe. Yeah. And as Nate also said, that it's not as simple as just looking at it and like checking some things off of a checklist, right? Some people could be playing to cope with something. Someone, I think it was Scuba Steve in the chat earlier, pointed out that he got into World of Warcraft to help deal with his PTSD, right? So people could be gaming or have a quote-unquote gaming addiction because of depression. So at that point, what is their actual affliction? Is it this gaming disorder or is it depression? And which one would you treat? It all comes down, I think, to education. When you read the actual article, the one that we have is from the BBC. They have a quote that from one of the medical practitioners that said that this could lead to confused parents whose children are just enthusiastic gamers. We know that. There was another
Dr.
one.
Richard Graham.
Yes, yep. And then there was another great quote that I liked that said, our findings show that technology is being used with, and in some cases perhaps to support other activities like homework, for instance, and not just pushing them out. So the people who actually made this decision, who have done this study, they know that just because you play games for X amount of time or because you have your head in your phone all the time, that doesn't automatically mean that you're addicted to technology. But the point is that the
you have a disorder.
Right, that the vast majority of people in the world, when seeing this headline, they don't know that difference.
Not just that, but it's a catchy catch-all for any type of parent or authority figure that looks at the way that you're spending your time and says, yeah, I don't agree with that. And that is a judgment on your behavior. Yeah. And I think that, especially when we're talking about adults, that really can't apply. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm sitting down across from a psychologist and I'm outlining my own behavior, or I'm, and they go, well, I think you might have gaming disorder. And it's like, bitch, this is my fucking job. You know what I mean? Like, for some people, this has become a job. And, when they were playing 10 hours a day of games, that, like maybe that was a point where they were unemployed and they started streaming to Twitch because they needed someone to talk to and they needed someone to connect with. And now, 3 years later, it's a job and there's income attached to it and it's a viable solution. So I think that,
right, but just like my thing, how many people actually have that part happen? Because just on the exact opposite spectrum, I know I went to the extreme examples, but there's plenty of people. I mean, we've been playing MMOs for a long time. How many of you know that you're talking to these people and they're maybe not going into work on certain days of the week like they should be, or their family may be suffering. I've known actually a lot of them through the years from EverQuest 1 up until modern day, even going all the way back to Evercrack days when they called it that. Ben Stein had his own kid. He had to actually have him institutionalized because his addiction was so bad, his health was failing and things like that. And that's, it's a pretty smart guy, Ben Stein. So if he's starting to realize that stuff, it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, this is 2018, right, where opioid addiction is out of control, and yeah, we hear about that. But what is ever done about it? Nothing, because you know what? People make money off that shit, and I don't expect much to be done about gaming addiction because there are billions of dollars that are made off of video games. But here's my concern, though. Here's my concern is that we're going to get a whole line of therapists and therapies and this whole cottage industry that forms out of trying to rehab people with gaming addiction. And I don't buy that there are enough people that are that severely addicted to video games in 2018 that they can't also hold down a job or they can't also figure out family life.
Yeah, and to add on to that too, my fear is that sure, we get a whole industry out of this, maybe they help some people, but how many people could this end up hurting in some other way because they're either using gaming to deal with something else, right? It's one of their passions, one of their hobbies. We actually have someone on this show who failed out of college because of video games. That was me, guys. Video games are the reason that I failed college, yet here I am. I had gaming disorder.
I thought that was math.
Well, I mean, obviously it affected math, but the point is, I didn't want to go to certain classes, so I stayed home playing video games instead.
But I don't think listen, all that was is I don't want to do math. I'd rather play Pokemon.
It wasn't just math. It was everything that wasn't acting, basically. But the point is,
but that's the thing. If you had decided to stay home from class and jerk off the whole time,
masturbation addiction?
Could someone have said you had a masturbation addiction?
Yes, that's the point that I'm trying to make here, though. Had at the time my family decided, he's failing out of college because of this, we have to get him into therapy, we have to take away the games, I still would have failed out of college, and guess what? I wouldn't be where I am today doing what I am.
But do you understand, though, that you were just making a quality, a time, like a judgment on how you wanted to spend your time, and you could have played video games, you could have jerked off, you could have gone out to eat, anything. You decided. You made the decision, I don't want to fucking do math. That was the decision that you made. Now, someone comes in and says, well, whatever you were doing instead, that's your addiction, and now we have to treat you for that. That is horseshit. That is total horseshit. Unless you, as a person, are going, I am unable to help myself from playing this game, and it is starting to take me away from doing things that I would rather be doing. I'd rather be going out and socializing with people, but instead, I'm playing this game. What we found, and to your point, Mike, is what we found in like the late 90s, whenever crack was becoming a thing, was that we were finding that people who had paired off into relationships or marriages were finding themselves having vastly different values, where one person was much more interested in playing a video game than the other person, and that became a point of conflict, and it broke some families up. Guess what? Anything can do that. It doesn't take an take an overall addiction. I didn't have an extreme addiction to Final Fantasy XI, but it was it was a point of huge contention in one of my relationships, and there was nothing that I could do short of quitting the game to be able to make that tension release.
I've heard about that relationship. I don't think that would have saved it anyway.
No, but that's exactly my point. If someone had come in and said, well, because of that, Nathan, I think that you're addicted to Final Fantasy, and we're going to have to send you to a, what is the, and at its worst, camp. Listen, at its worst, and I understand that this is a straw man argument, but at its worst, it could be like a gay conversion camp, but for video game addiction, and that is the shit that I don't want to see. That's the shit that is unnecessary, and that's the shit that, quite frankly, that is predatory on children. Children are usually the ones that get preyed upon the most because of this, because you have parents that disagree with the way that a kid is spending their time, or a kid is, playing around with how they're growing up, and then they send the kid off to this extreme reaction in this camp. That happened with more than a few of my friends, where they got into a little bit of trouble.
Talk about those before.
Yeah, they got into a little bit of trouble.
I think that's why they call it a disorder instead of, like what you were saying before, why they call it disorder instead of addiction, because a disorder and addiction are two, I don't think a disorder, and I don't think it's just one thing. Like if you've got a gaming disorder or gamer disorder or whatever it was they used for that, it's not always the same as addiction. It just means that maybe you kind of have more of a proclivity if like you said, if you've got something going on in your life, if you don't like math and science and you only like acting, you're gonna just, and you still to this day, would you still classify that as a disorder just because you're going to gaming as your escape? It doesn't necessarily always have to be a bad thing. I mean, there's people that have all kinds of disorders that are fully functional. I mean, 90% of the population probably has some crazy disorder or another, but they can still function properly. And even a lot of the stuff that Dr. Graham was saying in this, it's just things like impaired control over gaming, like the frequency, intensity, duration, the priority that you give to it. It doesn't necessarily mean that, always that you have to let your children, or, you're locking them under the basement like Harry Potter and letting them starve to death while you're
no.
afraid. But it does mean that maybe you have, they're crying in the background, or maybe dinner is a little late here and there because this raid will only be 10 more minutes and it's an hour and a half later. But, that's the difference sometimes between a disorder and a complete full-on like addiction, similar to gambling or I don't know, meth or whatever else it is that you get. Although those, like the gambling one is probably closer to video games Chemical addiction is, obviously a little different because there's biological stuff that happens in that. But even with, with most disorders like gambling and other things like that, it's just the act of, that's why these damn loot crates are so popular right now. Is it programs you to want, hey, just one more little bit, one more minute.
Right.
Well, some people really can't handle that.
So
might actually open up ways so that if they actually realize, like a gambler might realize, holy shit, I just spent my whole paycheck.
Right.
And if a gambler realizes that they need help, gambling addiction's a thing. Their insurance will help pay for that. Maybe with this, if somebody's like, oh shit, I'm really spending too much time on these things, I can't stop. Now, insurance companies might be required to help cover that, with whoever.
But should they though? But should they though? Like at some point, I think that there needs to be personal
for the insurance.
But I think that there needs to be personal accountability. Like honestly, if you're training, hang on. Now, if you're training to become an esports athlete, that takes dedicating time and effort into training. And we know that the average esports athlete is, under 18 years old. Like it's between, what is it? Like 16 and 22 is your average esports pro?
Yeah, low 20s.
So, this happens very young, which means that you have to start training and thinking about this from even younger than that. So, a great example in, when I was a kid, skateboarding was moving from becoming this thing that just random punks did in their free time and that parents would beat the shit out of their kids for doing, and it was becoming this thing that was getting people, to Tony Hawk, to sponsors, and video games were being made out of them, and it was being legitimized. And esports is going through that same transition now, where you've now got parents that are looking at their kids, not understanding the potential that esports presents them, or the amount of dedication that it's going to require to succeed at something like that. And now they have a club, a valid club from the WHO to come in and bludgeon their kids with and say, no, I don't agree with the way that you're spending your time. You're never going to amount to anything. Go into rehab and ruin every ability that you have to be able to market yourself or increase your skill at it. Now, not everyone is going to be able to print out maps and be able to become a shot caller for a major Overwatch team. And I understand that there aren't as many kids that are going to be able to get the opportunity to be an esports pro, especially as this thing shakes out more and more and it becomes, the pro scene
just
and
like
the amateur
the NFL
scene.
Or the NBA. There's only some people that have that talent, but the thing is, though, like I'm a parent too, and I've grown up since the Atari 2600. All my friends that have kids now, all their kids play video games. We play them together. I understand. Like I know my kid's pretty good at stuff.
But there are
still people like my sister who asks me if Roblox is acceptable for children. There are still those people that have absolutely
it's like
no
a 50-50.
But there's a lot of us now that have grown up on it.
Well, and I think that there is the biggest difference here. I mean, look, both of you have brought up great points for either side. I mean, the long rant that you just did a minute ago, Mike, on how, the difference between disorders or addiction, chemical, non-chemical, that's the whole point here, is that they've now basically said, all right, gaming disorder, it's a thing that's out there. People are talking about it everywhere. When we look at this article, 3 symptoms. It is a major disorder now, and there's 3 symptoms?
Right.
The ESA's whole point is that they
tell you what it is, but they're not like, and here's how to fix it.
But they do have
therapy.
They also mentioned there are clinics for it, and that's the problem I have, is that even though gaming, yes, has been around for 20, 30 years now, when you look at how the infancy of just the esports world right now, there's still, even with all that we know about gaming, and whether it's addictive or not, there still isn't enough when you compare it up against gambling, when you compare it up against drug addiction, right? They're putting it out there like it's now this new big thing, but we still don't know a whole lot about it or even the differences between different cases. And we need, I think, not just medical professionals that are able to diagnose this, but if someone's being diagnosed with this, it needs to be by a gaming medical health professional.
I mean, or at least someone who has context for it, because the minute that someone is taken out of, if you're 15 and your parents don't agree with the way that you're spending your time and think that you are playing too many video games and you're not spending enough time, doing school bullshit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and you can't for whatever reason, they either won't listen or you can't properly explain that I have a real shot at becoming an esports pro. I have a real shot at making a career out of this. Just like I had sat around for years and said, hey, a video game radio show will work. A video game radio. I said that for fucking 10 years before anyone took me seriously.
Did you think in those 10 years maybe you had a problem, Nate?
Yes. I did. I thought I was, for some reason, I thought I was stupid and that I had the problem and that I was being selfish and seeing things only through the lens of shit that I cared about. And no, it turns out, no, there is actually an audience for that, and that there is some validity to the claims. Just like the kid who's 15 years old and, whose parents seem to not want to, let him, pursue video games or think that video games are a waste of time. Just like those, no one's going to listen to that kid either, especially now that you've got him in an environment that is set to say video games are bad.
Yeah, that's honestly the biggest problem here. Isn't that this doesn't exist? They've been saying that for years every time you blow something away.
Thank you. You know what? I understand where you guys are coming from too, and I wanted to play more devil's advocate than anything, because really what this comes down to is it seems like it's almost like somebody did a study. It's a knee-jerk reaction. They wanted to get it out there, get some headlines going. And clearly, very clearly, there needs to be a hell of a lot more scientific studies done on actual people with actual knowledge, not just, at least this Dr. Graham that they were quoting actually seems to be a reasonable individual and understands that just because you play video games doesn't mean you're addicted. But
I do think they're on the right track.
There's definitely going to have to be a lot more to come to this.
Yeah. Mike, thanks for the call. Appreciate hearing from you. If you want to give us a call here on the show, Final Encounter Cast on Skype, 810-207-1764. I see that we've got 2 calls holding. We're going to get to you guys here in just a second. But I think that Mike brought up some pretty good points that, there are people who have ruined portions of their life with their interest in video games. But there was also this kind of like upset and shakeup around the time that the internet kind of became popularized, where people, maybe found the first round of MMOs and got super into them, and suddenly they seemed much more like a gamer than their spouse had previously thought that they were. And, we've seen now, as MMOs have been a staple of gaming for over a decade, that, that seems much more like someone who is not getting along, who doesn't have the same set of values, two people who don't agree with the way that each other spend their time. And that, again, that doesn't have to be video games. That could have been anything. They could have been working out in the garage too much, and they found something that seemed trivial enough that,
there's a great example. Imagine, a guy having a problem with his wife decides to spend all of his time in the garage all day long, completely ignoring her, right?
Right.
You wouldn't look at him and say, oh, you have some type of disorder, related to working on your car.
No, you hate your wife.
Exactly. You can see where that problem is. And just like Mike said, that's not to say that there aren't people out there who will forget to eat because they're playing. Again, people have died because of it. But again, I feel like some of the research, or some of the way that this is being presented, this gaming disorder, again, Mike said disorders aren't necessarily a bad thing. They're not necessarily a negative thing that's always going to impact your life, right? But disorders are something that's always there, right? A disorder means that something, whether it's in your brain or whatnot, is out of order, okay?
Yeah.
Someone who might be going through a depressive time in their life, or who might be going through, something like PTSD, all right? They use gaming to help them cope with that.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism.
If they use it to cope, they get over the depression, they're not gaming as much. Was that a gaming disorder? And that is the problem. 3 symptoms. 3 symptoms that honestly, hold on, Continuation or escalation of gaming despite negative consequences. Yeah, I might fall into that sometimes. Not often.
Well, you flunked out of college.
I
That's
did.
a negative consequence, and apparently it was to favor video games.
Increased priority given to gaming. Absolutely, I definitely do that. I've called into work sick because of a new game before. Impaired control over gaming, frequency, intensity, duration. I mean, I don't know if I have other things to really do, but honestly, anyone could look at that and classify me under all three of these things.
Under that, I guess when I'm depressed, I get addicted to watching The Princess Bride. Right? Like, that's just...
Do I have a drop for that?
Probably not. I don't know if you do. But you know what I mean? By that just strict definition right there, you know what I mean? Like, then okay, yeah, I guess I'm addicted to weed and The Princess Bride. Oh, boy. I like Andre the Giant. What do you want from me?
I would have liked there to have been... Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I feel like I would have liked there to have been a little bit more to it. And look, again, if you read the article, there are a few excerpts that the people I think who made these decisions, who is doing this research, yes, they know what they're talking about, right? But the article doesn't give me much confidence that the way this is going to be received by the wider field.
It validates all kinds of snake oil sales.
It says some countries had already identified it as a major public health issue. Major public health issue.
Get the fuck out of here.
Really.
Get out of here.
Many, including the UK, have private addiction clinics to treat the condition.
Well,
how many people in those clinics are actually addicted to gaming?
Internet addiction, you know, I think probably is a thing. But again,
how do you tell? But the internet is such a core part of our our civilization now. How do you know when someone's addicted to the internet?
Here's the when you talk about
relationships form because of the internet,
right? Yeah, and that was kind of the point that I was driving at around, you know, people who were playing MMOs too much and it ruined their relationships. Guess what? They found other relationships through the game. So
was it the game that did it, or was it because you're a cheating son of a bitch?
I mean, or did you just figure out through the game, through the process of playing the game, that you hated the person that
you were in a shitty relationship? Yes.
Why is that? Why is it the game's fault?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because we always need scapegoats. It can never be our fault.
I mean, there's rarely, you know, when divorce is a bad thing for kids, but it's rarely a bad thing to go through. It's just a breakup. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yep. And if you talk to your kids about it,
legally it can be awful. Legally,
an expensive breakup.
Yeah.
An expensive breakup. There you go.
I mean, but you're stupid for getting married in the first place. So I don't have that much.
Fair.
I don't have that much sympathy for you.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, let's go back to our phone lines and talk to Sony Walkman. What's going on, Sony?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for calling the show.
Yeah, this topic, I have such strong opinions on this topic. Being somebody who's grew up in the 80s and I've been growing up with gaming all my life, this is something that I've dealt with my family for years. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, stop playing the damn game.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I feel like the only reason people say this is because you're not doing what they want you to do. That's part of it.
How many of us have been at some type of family gathering and you heard, get off the computer and come down here and socialize?
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't fucking want to.
And then you sit down there in silence while everyone else talks.
And you just remember why you hate everyone that you're in that room with. Yeah, totally. 100%. 100%. And that's the thing, is that it, again, like you had said, Robbie, games more often than not are a coping mechanism. And the people that are, you know, again, the extreme cases, the ones that are dying because they're not getting up and using the bathroom or going up and feeding themselves, probably have an underlying...
There's something else there.
There's an underlying issue with OCD or being able to control themselves on that level, right? Like anyone who is playing for a while and, you know, the match ends or they're able to pause. Like, when you feel the need to pee, you get up and you go pee, right? Like...
nothing in any game is so serious that you can't find 5 minutes to pee.
But again, I hate to, you know, make this so serious, but compare it up to opioid addiction. Compare the amount of people that have died at an internet cafe or died in front of their computer playing video games or whatever, or died playing VR versus the number of fucking videos that you see of fucking wastoids at parks that are nodding off in the middle of it. Like, this is, you know, I find it so fucking hard to believe and to accept that, oh, we need to, oh, those video games are a problem, but, you know, oh, well, opioids, like, we got...
Smoking and having sex to all ends and getting AIDS times 6 is perfectly okay.
Right, like, not that it's perfectly okay, but that, you know, oh, we need a classification for what's going on with the video games, but, you know, this opioid problem, like, yeah, we've got to have a measured approach to that. Like, fucking no. That's insane to me. And I don't think that video games are inherently addictive. I think that there are aspects of games that can be addictive.
Sure.
And there are ways to play up addictive properties and things about video games, but in and of themselves, I don't think that video games are any more addictive or any less addictive than television or movies or any books. You know, like someone who would prefer to read books than go and socialize, you know what I mean? Like, at one point in time, they were, you know, you could probably view them as the same as us, who didn't, you know, would rather play video games than go and socialize. It's just, you know, like, I think it's a Doug Stanhope quote that he's like, there's no such thing as addiction. There's only things that you like doing more than life. And I kind of agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's making a choice that I would much rather have heroin than eat. And that's a shitty choice, but like that's chemical dependency, right? Like that's what Mike was talking about when you get chemically dependent on something. There is no chemical dependence when you're talking about video games. Now you're only just talking about being addicted to the endorphins that it releases when you succeed or whatever, or the anger that it that it inspires when you fail. You can get addicted to emotions, but that's not the same.
Video game.
That's not the same. You don't need radical treatments to be able to break that kind of thing.
Entire clinics dedicated to it.
Exactly. And you know what? I am dreading the first story that we hear about one of these clinics systematically abusing their patients, because that is guaranteed to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That is almost guaranteed to happen.
100%. And what's really, really sad too is we know this is going to end up happening to people that just have a healthy interest in gaming, right? And imagine the type of talent that could potentially be plucked away without us even knowing about it.
Absolutely.
Because some parents looked at their 15, 16-year-old kid and go, nah, that ain't going to do. And they send them off to camp for 6 weeks.
But is anyone going to ever do that for a kid who's spending that same amount of time playing basketball or playing football?
No.
Playing pickup hockey?
Never.
Probably not.
And maybe in another 40, 50 years, we won't have to worry about it for video games either. But till then, unfortunately, this is what happens.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, if we're gonna call video game disorder a valid disorder, then why not throw, you know, basketball disorder on top of that? Why not throw football disorder?
Exercising disorder.
If you watch more than 10 hours of football every week, guess what? You've got football disorder.
Yeah.
But nobody would say that because that sounds ridiculous. But apparently you can do that with video games, and that sounds cool for some.
Exactly. It does. It sounds inherently ridiculous. Like this whole conversation, I think, to me, sounds inherently ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, Chris is over here stuffing his face with food. Do we need to get him help?
Yeah.
Hey, man, the $1 stackers from Taco Bell is a great deal with a great amount of food. And you know what? If I'm going to get fat doing that, then it's going to be cheap. So
have you tried?
You got to get on that gravy train while it's still.
Don't put gravy on tacos. That doesn't make sense.
Hold on. Have you done this $10 50-piece McNugget deal from McDonald's yet? Isn't that a thing?
What?
I think I saw an ad for that the other day. $10 and you get like 50 McNuggets.
Damn.
I've not heard of that.
Is that a good deal? I don't think that is.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Kooky, though, says, oh, my God, I need that 50 McNuggets.
Sony, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it. You want to shout out anyone before we let you go?
All my shout-outs are on 14, so I'll just say shout-out to my FC Cools. And that'll be it.
That's what's up. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We are winding down the program. We've got one more call on hold. But if you want to, share a message to have us read on air, send it on over. Final Encountercast on Skype, or toss it in the chat room. We'll talk about it. But getting one more. Do we have our last caller set to go here?
We sure do.
All right, going back to our phone lines to talk to Callie. What's going on, Callie?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Wow. You decide to just grace us with your presence for the last 10 minutes of the show?
It's not like we asked you, today and last week if you want to be here this weekend because we're going to be down in Nika and we have a really great LBR coming up.
Yeah, not only that, but apparently Fat needs to Skype himself in, so that's been really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
I live from scenic Battle Creek, Michigan right now. It's lovely and boring.
How much snow is in Battle Creek?
It's kind of like everywhere else. The roads are fairly clear, but on the sides of the roads, there's like 1.5 feet.
Ah, fun. So did you want to talk about the WHO gaming addiction classification?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we talked a little bit about this on Checkpoint, I was kind of on the opposite side of you, Nate. I was kind of thinking, this is a great thing. People who do have this problem can, get it covered under their insurance and get it taken care of. But as the week has gone on, it's all started to feel a little Orwellian, I feel. And now I'm kind of sitting here like, I'm not sure I ever want someone being able to tell me you're just playing too many video games and you need to stop.
Nah, they have scientific proof now, bitch.
That's exactly it. Like, okay, if you want to have a conversation about addiction, let's have a conversation about addiction.
Right.
But the thing is like, yeah, I feel like, before we ever made a dime off of doing this, that's still, Limit Break Radio, every extension of everything that we've ever done through this company, we haven't wasted our time. We haven't wasted our effort. None of it, it's all been building towards something. And yeah, it took 10 years. And for the better part of it, for at least 7 of those years, my parents were looking at me like, hey, you're fucking crazy for spending any amount of time doing this.
You know what else this does too, which I think is a whole nother conversation that we didn't even get to touch, was imagine all of the good that has come out of therapy through video games, or now we have these cases that video games might be used to treat certain like they're going through the Callie, I need your help here.
The approval stage, Dr. Adam Gazali,
right.
They're going through clinical testing to see if video game can be used to treat ADHD.
Yes. So look, the fact that video games can be used in a positive light as well, like shouldn't that make people think, well, gee, maybe then it's not the games themselves?
Well, go ahead, Callie.
I think the overall message is always going to be one of everything in moderation. I like to go to the casino and, maybe I'll gamble $100, and if I lose it, it's not the end of the world. But then there are people who cannot stop gambling, and that is when they call it a gambling addiction. So right. Yeah, I get what they're trying to get at. There does come a point where you are playing video games to the extent that you cannot hold a job, that you are not, and you're not trying to use video games to launch, a career as a performer. You just really like playing them, and it's all you do all the time. I get that there are people like that, but I'm not sure that I can trust any medical professional
not to diagnose someone who isn't that.
Yeah, considering the
parents out there who are just going to see their kid playing video games all the time because, spoiler, they're a big part of our culture right now.
Yeah,
and they're going to think, oh God, my kid has a video game addiction. Well, that does worry me.
Not just that. Let's say that you just, as a parent, don't fucking get along with your kid. You don't like them. They're a difficult kid to parent. Dude, I have known enough of them in my lifetime where it's not that they're doing bad things, it's that the kid questions stuff and talks back and gives you a hard time because that kid is just, I was that type of kid. I gave my parents a hard time. I loved them. I loved being at home. I had a great home environment, but I still, if there was something that I disagreed with, I fucking argued it. And that gave me, I mean, shit, you want to know where my argumentative side comes out, comes from on this show? That's where a lot of it comes from, was being able to argue and not immediately having the taste slapped out of my mouth or being dragged away to some fucking camp out of convenience so that they didn't have to deal with me. And for too many of my friends that did have to go through that, that was exactly it. They weren't misbehaving. They were just difficult to parent. And the parents needed a break. And instead of finding a valid reason or having a valid reason to get these kids some kind of help because these parents had money, they instead shipped them off and with a convenient excuse of, I found cigarettes in their room, or I found...
Oh, he's addicted to gaming. That's why he acts that way.
Exactly. Now they have a valid excuse to try to get you treatment that they don't have to give themselves. And it gives them a convenient excuse to not have to be a fucking parent. And that's the part of it that I have a problem with. And that's when I talk about cottage industries, that's what I fucking, that's the part of mental health that I cannot fucking stand. I mean, we've talked about anxiety gaming. We've talked about, my own struggles with depression and mental health. And I do think that therapy and psychologists, that there are some good ones out there and that it is helpful. But at the same time, there is this whole cottage industry that exists just to make money off of people who are suffering, that only seek to put you in more suffering to draw more money out of you or your insurance company.
Well, we've seen video games, since what? All right, since their inception, right? Controversy after controversy, study after study, scapegoat after scapegoat. We're still trying to get rid of that stigma, and so we know from past experience that whether or not this information is true, whether or not it's accurate, whether or not there's proper documentation behind it, whether or not it actually helps people, it will also be used to harm people.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and that's really the question at the end of the day is there more to gain than there is to be lost from this? And you know what? It's too close either way for me. I'm not comfortable with anyone having the authority to say you're playing too many video games, which are fundamentally not a bad thing. Like, is there some point where you can say, you know what, this guy's got a juice addiction and he can't have any more OJ in the morning? Fundamentally, yeah, anything is bad if you do too much of it, but this worries me.
Right, but again, if you're addicted to cigarettes, is there anyone who's going to come in and force you to stop buying cigarettes?
Hey, when was the last time you stood out in negative 10-degree weather?
I mean,
fuck that, but guess what? Smokers do it every day.
Is there a bar or a mire on the face of the planet that when they see someone who comes in exhibiting clear signs of alcoholism that they won't let them purchase alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, we all like to have this little line that we can all feel safe and comfortable in because we're doing the right thing, but that's not how the real world works.
This is just a clear nanny state bullshit. You don't know how to spend your time. I know how to spend your time. You don't know what you like. I know what you like. I know what's good for you. How do you know that 10 hours a day of video games is bad for me?
They don't.
No, because there are people who are making millions of dollars who did exactly that, and they had to do it to be able to be where they are.
Yep, explain that.
All right. Callie, thanks for the call. Appreciate hearing from you. And drive safe getting back home.
Yep, will do, guys. See you soon.
All right. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we've got the Checkpoint Radio podcast. And just so you guys know, I did do a little bit of work to the overlay for the Checkpoint podcast. But you're going to have to wait until Wednesday to check that out. And you got to do that over at twitch.tv/Checkpoint Radio.
Really quick before we go, I would just like to point out that, again, I have never done calls before. When I was sitting over here at first, I'm like, man, I hope nobody calls in so I don't fuck it up. 3 people called in, and I didn't fuck it up at all. Literally, all you have to do, for all the times that Chris has ever messed anything up, all you have to do is hit the green answer button.
Yeah.
That's it. It's one button. So, Chris, you're a fucking idiot.
Sorry, not sorry.
Okay, we're done now.
Wow, you're really great. All right, you're in charge of all computer duties from now on.
Except I don't want the blown out mic.
No, you're perfect.
That
you are
destroyed.
the god of the computer engineering.
No,
100%.
I'm just not an
congrats.
idiot.
You have the job. You've earned it. You've earned it. Congrats.
So speaking of Dropmaster Juxta, I had given Juxta a little bit of homework to do over the holiday break, which was to go through his precious drops and give me 48 drops to because we were supposed to have a new drop system and a new radio system, which I was not able to install because I've got to send the computer back to the goddamn fucking manufacturer. I've got to return the whole thing because the sound card doesn't work in it. But I had asked Chris to go through and give me 48 of his most used drops. And
he did that, right?
No, he sure didn't. You want to know why? Because he forgot his USB stick here.
Oh, that's funny. I was going to say I just didn't want to do it. I didn't have time.
Yeah, right.
Well, see, it didn't even matter in the first place. So
he didn't even know. He didn't even know he was missing his USB stick. Wow.
Tisk tisk.
Wow. Is anyone shocked? I'm not.
Nope.
Anyway, all right, that's going to do it here for Final Encountercast. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. The countdown has begun. Only 8 more episodes remain in Final Encountercast, and then becomes the Let's Be Real podcast. I'm looking forward to it. I think that a nice change is going to be cool. So stay tuned. Checkpoint Radio Podcast is coming up next here live on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. And then after that, at 4 p.m., we'll have the latest episode of Limit Break Radio, fresh off of a 2-week break. So stay tuned. That's coming up here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. I want to thank my crew today. We had Chris and Robbie, and a special shout out to Callie for calling in. I want to thank all of our callers today. My name's Nate. Keep listening. Final Encountercast is a production of FinalEncountercast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Callie Sloan and Kooky Persona. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in